Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington, where you will hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers that are moving Greater Burlington forward. Here is your host, Stephen Brody.
Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington. The Burlington Bees has had a rich and storied history here in the Greater Burlington area, and it's a pleasure to have with us today their general manager, Tad Lowary, to share with us all things Burlington Bees. So, Tad, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll share as many things as I can, Burlington Bees. I don't know if it'll be all things, but as much as I can come up with. So.
I usually don't come with a lot of advanced prep work on this, but I thought it would be interesting just to begin with reading a brief history of the franchise and how long it's been in Burlington for the listeners to understand the rich history that the team has had here. The team began playing in Burlington in 1889 as the Burlington Babies. Teams with various nicknames played until the Burlington Pathfinders were named in 1906, keeping the nickname until 1916 and playing in the Central Association. After a hiatus, the Burlington Bees played in the Mississippi Valley League from 1924 to 1932. The franchise then returned as the Burlington Indians in 1947, the same year that their current stadium, Community Field, opened. They won the league championship in 1949, their third and final year in the Central Association. The team joined the 3I League, standing for Illinois, Iowa, and Indiana, in 1952 as the Burlington Flints, but was renamed the Bees in 1954. Burlington joined the Midwest League in 1962 as a farm team of the Pittsburgh Pirates. From 1963 to 1974, they were a farm team of the Kansas City and later the Oakland A's. Subsequent affiliations included the Brewers, Rangers, Expos, Braves, Astros, Giants, Reds, and White Sox. Since 2000, the Bees have had three affiliates: the Kansas City Royals, Oakland Athletics, and most recently the Los Angeles Angels. Following the 2020 season, the Bees were cut from the Midwest League, unfortunately, and affiliated baseball as part of Major League Baseball's reorganization of the minor leagues. But thankfully, they later joined the Prospect League, a collegiate summer baseball league, which you're currently with since 2021. And finally, the Bees have won the Midwest League championship 4 times in 4 different decades: 1965, 1977, 1999, and 2008. So quite a storied history here in Burlington. So Tad, with all of that, why don't we start with you? How long have you been associated with the Burlington Bees?
Excuse me. I've been with the Bees since January, I believe, of 2019. I started in as a sales and, operations position, so taking care of day-to-day things on game days and set up and helping with that kind of stuff, and then became the general manager in April of 2021, right before that season started, as an interim for that season, and then full-time permanent after that season. So 3+ years, 3.5 years I've been with the organization as an employee, having gone to games all my life, off and on. So have been around the ballpark, many times over the course of the years. So
yeah, I was going to ask: is baseball in your blood? Is it something that you were connected with, and so this was a great opportunity for you?
I played baseball up until Little League, basically, and a little bit beyond that, never in high school or college or anything, but I've always been a baseball fan, and have followed, baseball, Major League Baseball. The Cardinals are my favorite team, so that's the team I follow there. The Bees have not ever been, as far as I know, a Cardinals affiliate, but I've always followed Bees baseball as well and spent, like I said, a lot of time out there as a kid growing up, and as I got older, able to go out on my own and take my kids out there and things like that. So
yeah, well, as somebody who loves baseball and loves minor league baseball, I'm probably going to ask you really interesting questions that come to mind. You always wonder, like, how does this work? How does this operate? So for one thing, do you have such a thing as a typical day working with
Not
a
really.
baseball organization?
Not really.
Okay.
And especially during the season, and right before, in planning and things like that. Like in the off season, I guess, there's kind of a typical day where, we do things in the office, book work and things like that. Taking care of all those things on the administrative side. However, starting soon, we'll start our selling season for next year, getting sponsorships and selling, season tickets and things like that. So it's a lot of different aspects to it, sales and administration and all sorts of things. We'll start, as soon as we do get our schedule for next year, we'll start planning specific dates for our fun promotional days and all those kind of things. But then, once the season rolls around, there's not a typical day. It can start at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning where we have to take a tarp off of the field because it, rained the day before. So we had to make sure that the field was playable, and, get everything set up for whatever event or promotion we have for that day's game. It's always something different for sure.
How much goes into scheduling the season? Who's involved with that?
That's that's part of the league office. So the way the Prospect League is set up, we each team has a representative on their board of directors, which I happen to be that person. So I am involved in the league process as well. Excuse me. The scheduling then becomes a matter of all the teams, giving input on what dates work, what don't for certain time frames. There may be other events at their ballparks because a lot of the teams, lease from the city or different things like that. So they have other events that have to be, coordinated with. We don't have that so much, but there are different things that come up, different times where we need to do that. So we then have an outside party that we then submit those things to that will then come up with an official schedule for the season.
Okay.
So we give parameters on, do we want, a lot of games in a row at home, a lot of games, or just a couple here and there. So, and
I've noticed that with the schedule, there's sometimes you might have 2 games during the week. There's others you might have 4 or 5 during the week. Always fascinated as to how that variety would be there.
Yeah, and that kind of comes down to, some of the other teams in the league, whether they have, specific dates that they, have to be on the road or prefer to be at home and things like that. Same for us. There are certain dates that, that we always prefer to be home and things like that. But last year in 2021, it was a little different because we didn't get into the league until a little bit later or closer to the season. So they kind of had to adjust the schedule to fit that in. So it was a little bit, I think, for us better in 2022. Having a little bit more consistency on, being home for 3 or 4 games. There were a few times where, we had a one-off where we'd go play, Quincy or over in Illinois Valley, which is in Peru, 1 game here and there with some of those places. Yeah. But it was a little more consistent on, 3 and 4 games at home and then on the road. So that kind of worked out better, this last year. So.
Sure. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty, how do you get involved in the drafting or selection of players for the team? Because obviously now you're not affiliated with a major league team. This is now scouting, or whatever terms you want to use, getting college players to come. So how's that work? How do you get those players to come here?
Sure. I'm a little bit involved in that, not so much, other than trying to reach out and make contacts with find new colleges, coaches, things like that just happen to try and find on LinkedIn or whatever to try and get in touch with those. But most of that is actually our field manager who is our head coach, basically.
Okay.
And most of the clubs have a college coach or an assistant or something like that is their coach in the summer. So they're pretty plugged into those pipelines to get other coaches, already have connections and take care of most of that. So our coach does most of that.
Okay.
As far as specifically recruiting and securing players.
So does he basically send some sort of a solicitation out to? Is there like a network that he goes out to and say, hey, I need to fill a club? I mean, it's interesting. What is it that attracts a player to be available? Yeah, I'll come and play during the summer.
Yeah, a lot of the kids want to play, and it's up to them. But a lot of the college coaches will have some of their players that they want to get more at bats or more innings pitched to get some more work in the summer. Between that off season. So typically, I think, like I said, the coaches, a lot of them know each other, so they'll reach out to the ones that they know, or kind of then start to branch out and get other contacts from other schools where they can bring in kids. And like I said, a lot of the kids you'll see are ones that didn't necessarily get as much work in the spring, because their official college season is in the spring. What counts, I guess, when they play for, conference and national championships. So they do that. Then they also, then some of the kids will play in the summer. And then they have fall season, which is typically their exhibition or, things like that for the colleges. So, it's really just kids and coaches that want to send their kids to different places to just get more reps in.
And I know one thing that's been very popular in Burlington has been the whole host family program, in having families volunteer their homes and open their homes to players. Of course, that happened during the major league affiliations as well. Mm-hmm. So the player comes and stays with a host family. Is there anything else that the player gets coming out here? Because you start delving now with, can you pay them? Can you not pay them? So what are some of the perks or benefits by playing?
I guess the biggest perk is the experience. We had kids last year from as far as California out to Pennsylvania, I think, and places in between. So it's a little bit of just the experience of getting to a new place and meeting other players and connecting that way.
Yeah.
Some of the kids, which the nature of college sports these days with the transfer portal, they may have entered the transfer portal and they're looking for other opportunities for somewhere to play the following season and things like that. So there's a little bit there, and also to get seen potentially by a professional scout. They do come out occasionally, that way. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that they're kind of looking for, keeping their skills sharp, and like I said, possibly getting seen and signed with either an independent team or picked up, signed with even a major league club and to play minor league ball there. So
Are they able to get any sort of stipend, or can they not receive anything? And so, like, when they're here, how do they survive?
It's mostly on them. They actually pay a fee to play in the league. The host families, we provide basically housing for them, and then their travel, and post game meals for them. So pretty much everything else is on them. A lot of the host families will take it on themselves to provide some food and different things like that for the kids that are staying there.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, it's technically up to the players and their families. So we provide, like I said, the lodging, transportation on the road, lodging on the road, the food on the road, and then a post game meal when they're here. Then they get their game hats and stuff like that. Our uniforms are ones that we use year to year, but they'll get their hats and some of their warm up gear and stuff like that that we provide them. So
some behind the scenes questions that have always fascinated me. Where do you go, for example, to get your items in the souvenir shop? Do you have local vendors? Do you go out? How do you stock your shop?
It's a mix of both. Some of the things we do get, from local vendors, but a lot of what we get for those actually go back to a lot of our connections from the minor league system. What normally would happen, it hasn't for the last few years. With the winter meetings, there would be, vendor fairs where there would be, all the different, apparel and novelty, you see your little mini bats and logo baseballs and keychains and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's several different ones, in every avenue. There's several different vendors in the apparel side and in, other novelty and everything. So we still have some of those connections that we've continued to use and have looked for some new ones. Unfortunately, with some of our stuff, they were exclusive to like the minor league affiliates.
Okay.
So we've had to look at some of the others, but we know a lot of the ones that are out there that we can look to start a relationship with and start getting products from them.
Is there anything comparable in the Prospect League which is like that? I mean, are there still vendor fairs? Are there winter meetings or spring meetings? Anything similar like that?
We do have league meetings a couple times a year. This past one, it was in Springfield, Illinois. So that was the team that kind of coordinated it, put it together, and they did bring in some vendors, and more so this time. Than what we had done in the past from the time I've been in, the Prospect League.
Yeah.
So we've been able to do that a little bit there. Typically, there would be a couple of vendors that would come and make a presentation during the meetings, different points there.
Yeah.
They did put together a bit of a vendor fair at this particular recent meeting, which was back in October.
Yeah.
So.
How about concessions? How do you handle that?
Concessions is we do it in-house. So we do all the cooking and preparation and everything there. Some teams will have a third-party concession vendor that basically leases the space, or they do some kind of revenue split or something.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know how that works exactly, but I'm fairly sure that that's how they do it. But we do everything in-house. So we do, have a couple of people that we have oversee the kitchen staff. A lot of our serving and things like that are volunteer groups that come in and help us out, for some fundraising for their groups as well. So, Boy Scouts and some of the other groups around town, Kiwanis, organizations like those and some others that come in and we fill some of the spots that way.
Yeah. Talk about the organizational structure of the Bees, because you have like a board, right? Mm-hmm. There's a board. So you don't have somebody who technically is the owner of the team.
Correct.
So how is the team run?
There's the board of directors, which consists of 15 members for the Burlington Baseball Association board, who oversees the entire organization. They hire the general manager, which happens to be myself at this time, that then runs the day-to-day of the operation. With currently there's just myself then on full-time staff and one other person, Jill Mason, who's our assistant general manager. So just two of us right now. In the past, when we had a bigger schedule and had the affiliation with Major League Baseball, had a few more on staff from time to time. Typically, from 3 to 5, just depending on the year, and if somebody moved on and didn't refill that position. But as of right now, there's just two of us on full-time staff. So, but the board oversees the whole thing, and we work in coordination with the board to make decisions and do things for the organization. So they leave most of the day-to-day to the office staff. To do all that stuff, the scheduling and promotions and concessions, all that stuff. So
I know it was a real sad and unfortunate situation when Burlington and Clinton, for that matter, were dropped, and both teams now are in the Prospect League. What was the biggest adjustment, to go from that to now being in a summer collegiate league that you had to transition into?
So the biggest thing would have been the length of schedule. Typically, it was, it would start like first week of April through the end of August, maybe into the first week of September, and have 140 games, so 70 home games to fill within that time. So that was one of the biggest changes. We're now a 60-game schedule up until this point. So with the Prospect League up until this season. So that was the biggest change, and then having to secure our own players as opposed to having them just sent here
the big club.
From the big club. Once they were done in spring training, they would say, all right, you 30, 32 guys, whatever, you're going to Burlington. These 32 or whatever are going to the double A and whatever. So having to do all that on our own, and those are the biggest changes. Like I said, the scheduling and then of course then having to secure our own coaching staff and players.
Yeah, sure. So what happens when the players show up? When they come, what do you do in terms of maybe an orientation or a welcome, a way to get them acclimated to this is where you're going to be for the next couple months?
Sure.
So.
A little bit different now than in the past as well, because they would basically all show up at the same time on one bus. Now it's kind of, we get kids coming from all over, and they get here on their own. So, we may have, most of the team, show up just a few days before the season, because they're typically finishing up their college seasons, which those can run into, we start, I can't remember the first date, May 31st, June 1st. And the College World Series and other regionals and things don't happen until, the first couple weeks of June.
That's right.
So we may have not a full, our full roster at that time. But, once they get here, we typically, right before the season, the last couple years, of course, that's as long as we've had to do that with the Prospect League, have a get-together with the host families so they can, meet their host family, go from, we take them over to Boogaloo and have pizza for everyone and get together. So like I said, everyone can meet each other, meet the teammates. Because before, they would have known each other, having worked out in spring training all together.
Sure.
So now, we get, a few guys from certain schools, that know each other. But for the most part, none of them really do. So they're meeting each other for the first time. And we may have, some of our host families will, house 2 or 3 or 4 players. Well, they may be, we try to keep them together with guys they know as much as possible, or guys from the same school, but they may be completely, from different areas, different schools and things like that. So, so then, we get them together, get them with their host family, and then, usually they'll do some workouts, practice and things, the couple days before the season. So we'll sit down with them and kind of go over the ground rules and a little bit of an orientation, kind of tell them a little bit about Burlington, where to find this or that, where to get the best haircut, where to get the best tacos, whatever, whatever they need to know from us. And we keep a pretty good communication with them, throughout the season as well. So
when the season ends, is there anything that they get to take home with them other than the experience of playing in a collegiate league? Is there anything that they get as a thank you that is?
We don't have anything specific, but like as I said, they get to keep their game hats,
Okay.
So they have that as a souvenir, I guess, from their time. So that's probably really about the only thing that they get to keep, other than the experience.
Yeah.
So.
How's it been in the Prospect League so far as an organization for you to work with? Is it a good?
It's gone pretty well. Yeah. We've had no problems with the organization, the Prospect League itself. It's been pretty good experience so far. So.
What are you hearing in terms of the This is the crystal ball, of course. What are you hearing in terms of future potential realignment or any expansion? Are you hearing anything about the possibility of maybe getting back into minor league baseball, or do you think that's a closed door for now?
I think that's probably a closed door. My personal feeling is that there will be even less teams in the minor league system in the future.
Oh.
I don't know that for because of anything other than just kind of what I've seen with the first time they did it.
Yeah.
So it just seems like that Major League Baseball wants to trim it back, and I could see them doing it again.
Yeah.
So the changeover for us kind of happened at the best time. Right after that 2020 when there was no season, and moving forward, there would have been a lot of things we would have had to do with Major League Baseball with the new setup that would have made it difficult for us to continue. New facilities and different things like that would have made it difficult to to continue on. So the change kind of happened at really a pretty good time where we were able to move on. When that first list came out, we were pretty aware that we were going to be one of the ones, when it happened, that they did the the realignment.
Yeah.
So we were the smallest market in full season minor league baseball.
Yeah.
There are other smaller ones, but they were rookie leagues and things like that didn't play the entire 140 game schedule. So we were the smallest. Geographically, we don't really align well with with the teams we were affiliated with, or even some of the other major league clubs. So it was difficult for those things, and those are probably the main reasons that we were not continued with the minor league, Major League Baseball system. So,
and yet the Burlington area has still embraced this team, because even though you have less games, your attendance numbers have gone up per game, right?
Yeah. Yep. Attendance has gone up year over year, even from first year with the Prospect League to the second year. Attendance was up year over year. And I think part of that is because we're able to bring in some local kids and things like that. So it kind of keeps the interest level high, seeing kids that have played, at Burlington, West Burlington, New London, those places that are able to come in and play for us. As well as we've kept the experience fun. The family experience at the ballpark, and tried to enhance that, even market to families, young families that just want to come out and have a good time at a reasonable price.
Yes.
It's hard to do anything with a family of 4 or 5 or 6 for
I know that
for a reasonable cost anymore. So we've tried to keep that affordable, but still have a lot of fun things with on-field contests and promotional nights with giveaways and prizes and all those kind of things.
Well, I will agree with that. For as long as I've been in the Midwest and living in Illinois, I have come across the river and I've attended games in Burlington for years. And it's a wonderful venue, wonderful entertainment. The value is there. You're not going to go broke attending a game, and I've always really appreciated that. If there are folks who want to get involved, or I don't know how many paid positions there are, if it's strictly volunteer, but if people want to get involved and do something with the Bees during the season, how do they go about doing that?
They can contact us at the office. We do hire some paid positions that that run our cash registers and do some different things like that. Those are paid positions aside from the volunteers that will run food and prepare and different things like that. So we do have a few paid positions that we do for the summer, as well as if you have an organization that you're involved with. We're always looking for other volunteer organizations to fill those positions, as well as host families. If you have an extra room, really all the kids need from a host family is a place to sleep and shower and prepare food. They don't need a whole lot, but we like to keep them in with good families and, nice places and things like that. So I did it a couple years ago, actually. Had a couple guys stay at our house. If you have an extra room in the basement or off, the extra wing in your house, then we would be more than happy to consider you for a host family, or again for other positions out there through the summer.
And what's the phone number to call?
319-754-5705.
Excellent. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. It went really fast, but I am so glad that you were here to share all things Burlington Bees with the audience. And so, Tad, thank you so much for coming in, and continued success in your role with the Bees.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me out.
We appreciate you listening to All Things Greater Burlington. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know who you'd like us to interview. If you have someone of interest, give us a call at the Greater Burlington Partnership offices, and we would be happy to reach out to those individuals. So until next time, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
You have been listening to All Things Greater Burlington with Stephen Brody. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to catch all new episodes. To learn more about all things Greater Burlington, visit greaterburlington.com/ATGB.